Hey y'all, Mr. Hernandez here just testing out Screencastify. This is a piece of tech I'll be using to make our lectures over the next couple of weeks, okay? So today we're going to be recapping the end of our World War I lesson with President Wilson, his 14 points, and the Treaty of Versailles. We remember that the 14 points was a speech given by President Wilson to Congress at the end of the war. These points argued for smaller nations to have the ability to govern themselves and push for democracy to spread around the world instead of imperialism. Remember, we looked at that example of the map of Africa being all carved up between different European nations to discuss imperialism. So, one of the points of Wilson's 14 points was to get rid of all of that. And one way he wanted to do this was by making a League of Nations where lots of countries would come together to settle any kind of disputes between two or more countries in the future. We remember from our homework that the US Senate did not want to ratify the Treaty of Versailles because of the League of Nations. The opposition was led by Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, who declined the treaty because he thought the US should not involve itself in the matters of other nations. Basically, it makes no sense for the US to send our soldiers to fight a war somewhere else and for someone else. The result of this is called isolationism, meaning that the US would only focus on matters that happened on US territory, within the country, or matters that would benefit the US. So, to transition from World War I to the Roaring Twenties and the Harlem Renaissance, we have to talk about black soldiers in World War I. Initially, when General Pershing was preparing his soldiers for war, the AEF, the American Expeditionary Forces, he said it would take months to get his men prepared, and that no American soldier, when they were ready to fight, would fight alongside European soldiers or under another flag. But the US Army could go ahead and send black American troops, to help the French in their fighting. He thought it'd be easier to segregate the American troops from the black American troops from the whites in order to avoid any sort of racial tension within the army. Though this thinking was pretty backward and exclusive, the black men who volunteered to serve their country and fight for freedom, which they themselves were denied at home, went on to become some of the most famous and successful units throughout the war. I'd like to mention the 369th Infantry Division, known as the Harlem Hellfighters. These black soldiers were from New York and served the longest period of time in the war and never had a single member of their unit captured. While you go through some of your slides to review for our quiz, go ahead and check out this History Channel video. It's pretty neat. In the next slide, you can see some of the patches that were worn by some of the other black units, such as the Red Hands, who were known literally for getting their hands bloodied when they were battling German units, which is pretty interesting. There are also the Buffalo Soldiers of the 92nd Division, and for the 93rd, we can look at the Blue Helmets. The Blue Helmets were called this because when they were assigned to the French, that was the color of the French helmet in battle. This is really important, talking about these black soldiers, because after serving their country in the most direct and noble way, literally by going over to fight for freedom, many black American soldiers thought that maybe when they got home to America, they would be greeted as heroes and be rewarded with things like civil rights or better treatment in society. In the next video, we'll see how exactly that pans out for them, whether it does or whether it doesn't. But until then, take care.